This is Focus on Africa from the BBC World Service. Now to something good and life-giving. Dr. Aristide Kamla from Cameroon has won the 2024 Whitley Award for work that is helping to save a marine mammal called the African manatee. And while he's at it, he's also helped preserve the livelihoods of the fishermen along one of Cameroon's largest lakes. The manatee were threatened by an invasive plant species called Salvinia molesta, which was choking off all other forms of life in Lake Ossa. Dr. Kamla found a way of killing off the plant. Through his organization, the African Marine Mammal Conservation Organization, he's trained fishing communities to protect the manatee, an animal they'd come to regard as an enemy because it destroyed their fishing nets. Now, if, like me, you've never heard what a manatee sounds like, listen up. There are 3 different kinds of manatee: the Amazonian, the West Indian, and the West African manatee, which faces the threat of extinction from poaching and entanglement in fishing nets. Dr. Kamla told me a bit more about his work and the manatee he wants to save. Well, let's start the interview, and I'm going to start by asking you, what did you win the Whitley Award for? And tell us just a little bit more about the award itself.
I'm a marine biologist, and I work to protect the African manatee. It's this marine mammal that you find all along the west coast of Africa, from Mauritania down to Angola. But in Cameroon, there is a lake called Lake Ossa, which is like the hotspot of the African manatee in the country. And a decade ago, there's been an invasion of a plant called Salvinia molesta, an invasive plant species that has been threatening the habitat of the African manatee, and with a serious negative impact also on the local community. And to address that problem, I've initiated what we call the biological control, which consists of using a weevil that feeds specifically on this plant. And that weevil has been able to clear more than 70% of that plant. And now the lake is recovering, and we're seeing more and more manatee coming back, and the fishermen do their fishing activity again. So that's why the Whitley Fund for Nature is supporting me to complete this fight, and also to help the local community gain a better livelihood, and also to restore the forest around the lake.
Right. So did you say weevil? So that's a form of a bug. So does that eat the plant?
Yes, the weevil. The weevil is an insect. It's a tiny black insect that feeds on the plants. And when that insect feeds on the plant, so it is making some perforation on the leaves, and also eat what we call the beds of the leaves where the new leaves are coming up. So, and this is when the larva of the weevil will go and hide in that bird and will hijack the proteins that the plant was reserving for new leaves. So when that protein is no more there, so the plant can no more grow. And this is how the plant will eventually brown and die.
Why is the Salvinia molesta, that plant that you've managed to bring under control, so dangerous for the lakes and the environment in Cameroon?
So Salvinia molesta is a plant native from Brazil. So it's not a native plant in Cameroon. And when a non-native plant comes into a habitat, for the case of Lake Ossa, because that plant finds itself in an environment where he had no competitor, it started spreading all over and even outcompeted the native plants, such as Echinoclora pyramidalis, which is, by the way, the main food plant of the African manatee. So this is how, because of that plant invading, manatee could no longer stay in the Lake Ossa. So they had to move into a different water system. And at the same time, that plant was also impacting the local community. Lake Ossa feeds more than 300 fishermen, and there are more than 17,000 people living around the lake. And as this plant invaded, fishermen could no longer fish in the lake because it was interfering with their fishing net, and also it was causing a decrease on the fish production, creating like that, an economic crisis within the villages around Lake Ossa.
Right. So you saved the manatee from starvation, basically from displacement, and the fishermen from losing their livelihoods in this way. Tell us about the
Exactly.
manatee. They're such slightly comical looking.
The African manatee is a marine mammal. It's the only herbivorous mammal on Earth. I mean,
Herbivorous, so they
manatee, yeah.
eat plants. Okay, yeah?
Yeah, so the manatee are very gentle. Actually, I think if all the people on this planet could be like the African dark manatees, I think this world would be a paradise because they don't cause harm to anybody. They just want to live their life, enjoying the resources, and and life goes on. So they're very peaceful animals.
How did you get to know them and fall in love with them?
So my encounter with the African manatee was actually an accident. So during one of my class, when I was doing my master's degree, I was left with this topic that nobody wants to pick. I read that it's all those animals that are larger than 45 kilograms and that lives in the water. That was the first time I was reading something like the African manatee. And then, so this is where my curiosity started. I tried to look at where are they located in Cameroon. And as I was reading, I realized that the species is highly poached. And then, but there was nobody, no scientists working for their protection. So this is how, for my master research, I decided to focus on the African manatee. And this is what I've been doing till now. So it's more than a decade that I've been working to protect the African manatee in Cameroon.
Do people now work together to protect manatee, or is it particularly in Cameroon and the Lake Ossa that they are endangered because of the Salvina molesta and the others are fine?
So the African manatee is present in 21 countries along the west and central coast of Africa, and they spend most of their time in lakes and rivers. Now we are trying to build a network of manatee researchers across the continent. We have this plan of creating an African manatee conservation network that will bring all those researchers together to collaborate and develop a strong action plan for the conservation of the species across the continent.
And so how receptive are people that had previously seen the manatee as an enemy, those people who hunted them because they saw manatee destroying their fishing nets? Are they willing to conserve and help protect manatee now?
So when I started manatee conservation in Lake Ossa, fishermen were very reluctant about my conservation message when I was telling them, no, don't kill the manatee because they are protected, because they are doing this, because they are good for this. They did not really care about my message until one day one of the fishermen came to me and said, Aristide, we're seeing you constantly on this lake, bringing some equipment to to study the manatee. It seems like the African manatee is more important than a human being. Like you don't do anything for us. After reflecting about what that fisherman told me, I realized that he was right. I was so focused on the manatee that I forgot that this manatee lives in an environment where there are people, where there are human, the human component of the conservation. So it's at that moment we started now initiating activities also towards the fishermen community by providing them alternative livelihoods, by supporting them. And it's at that moment that these communities started understanding our conservation message. So today, when we say protect the manatee, they're more cooperative than in the beginning.
Thank you.
Thank you too.
Dr. Aristide Kamla, founder of the African Marine Mammal Conservation Organization and winner of the 2024 Whitley Award, a prize for work benefiting wildlife, landscapes, and people.